All right, this conversation is for all you parents out there who are trying to help your kids to grow up to be Christians. Now, I want you to think about it like this. I want to talk about helping your kids internalize the truth of a biblical worldview. In fact, that's what the resources at pursuegod.org equip you to do, is to help your kids internalize what you believe rather than just giving lip service to it. So, let's sort of sketch this out. Here's your kid. They have all of these influences. For example, media is a major influence that's coming at them, trying to get into their heads and their hearts. You also have at school, you've got their friends, some good, some bad, but friends are massive influences that are putting pressure on your kids and are sort of vying for your kids' attention and perspective. Let's just give one example. Teachers, everyone has teachers. Some of them are great. Some of them maybe don't believe the same things that you believe. Now, these are just three examples. There are clearly other influences on your kids. Maybe you can talk about them with your group or your mentor, but I want you to think about this. Think of your family, your parenting as this protective, ring around your kid's head and your heart. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that the right values and beliefs and practices and ideas are the ones that are really penetrating your kid. You're going to want to try to help your kid internalize the things that you believe. You're going to want to help them to understand how to discern truth from lies, right from wrong. And man, this is so hard to do in today's culture, isn't it? And so we're going to talk about how can you do this? How can you make sure that your kid over time is only internalizing what God's word says? Now, I actually think that the best passage for this comes from the Old Testament, Deuteronomy 6. Moses says this to all the parents there before they enter the promised land. He says, commit yourselves wholeheartedly to the commands that I'm giving you today. In other words, to a biblical worldview, right? He had just given them the 10 commandments. But look at what he says in verse 7 to parents. Repeat them again and again to your children. Talk about them when you are at home and when you're on the road, when you're going to bed and when you are getting up. And so what I want you to see here in this passage is the intentionality that Moses is speaking with. And what he's saying is, in essence, he's saying, make sure that your kids internalize the right things. So let me give you some practical tips about how to help your kids internalize, how to do this very thing. The first tip is this: be intentional as a parent about conversation, right? If you want your kid, this is, I think, what Moses was saying, if you want your kids to really follow Jesus, then as a parent, you have to be intentional about it. You can't just sort of not have a plan. Be intentional. Number 2, pick good topics from pursuegod.org. Go to the kids section if your kids are less than 12 years old. Go to the student section if they're junior high or high schoolers. And what we do with our kids is we pick topics on a weekly basis. Maybe for some of you, you might want to do it on a daily basis and start when they're young. Pick topics and start talking about things with them. And number 3, and this is important, and our tools help you to do this, ask great questions. The last thing that your kid is going to want, is certainly as they get older into the teen years, is for you to just be cramming your ideas and the Bible, even if they're good ideas, even if it's truth. They don't want you to just cram it down their throats. And so one of the ways I think that you can approach this as a parent is learn to ask great questions, to get them to think about it, to get them to sort of expose some of the lies maybe that they've bought into. And then number 4, listen. Listen to your kids. Pay attention to what they're saying. Don't overreact if you don't feel like they're getting it. Pay attention when you read the Bible. Notice how great Jesus was at listening. I mean, he had so much wisdom and he understood the truth, and certainly he wanted everyone to understand the world the way he did, but he was still so good at listening because he knew that truth is discovered over time. And remember that when it comes to parenting your kids. And then the last tip is just this: repeat these other 4 things. Keep being intentional. Create a conversational culture in your home. Pick good topics from the library. Ask great questions. Listen. And just one topic at a time, walk with your kids. Again, if you start this when your kids are young, if you're lucky enough to be watching this video when your kids are 7 or 8 or 9, but if you can create a conversational environment in your home from the very beginning, this is what my wife and I have tried to do, then you can help your kids really over time, not just sort of parrot back what you believe, but really internalize the truth of a biblical worldview. They can do it. They really can. And as a parent, God calls you to help them.